Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 4018. Today's date is April 23, 2026. It's been almost like a night at 9:14 p.m. All right, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. All right. So, question is, how will onboarding create calm behavior? Okay, that's a really good question. All right. First of all, what exactly is this question, and why am I asking this question to myself? I wanted to build an app called My Artifact. Okay, it's a kind of like a something app where like you wrote the diary every single day. Okay, what if instead of writing a diary, you could record the diary? Like basically, when you write the diary, there are so many constraints. Like you can write, you have to think what to write and things and that. And sometime now, whatever we are kind of like a thinking, we cannot put that on paper. Why? Because of that key, there are so much constraint. The way that we think, we can't way that we write like that. Like basically the how fast that we could think, we cannot able to be write those things on paperwork. So I thought that ki, what if I could kind of like convert this kind of like a writing journal into the recording journal. I called them as a artifact. Now things that you are kind of like hearing right now, it's called My Artifact, episode number 4016. I've been recording this artifact for almost like a 11 year, and because of this recording, I get so much amount of value in myself. Whatever I am right now and whatever I will become future, whatever I will become in the future, it's all because of the artifact kind of like added so much amount of value in myself. I realized that ki, what if I could supposed to make an app and let the people have that value too, let the people kind of like a feel, let the people get that value too. So I decided to make this app. Now this artifact app, like My Artifact app, is kind of like a simply YouTube. Okay, yeah. In the YouTube platform, people kind of like upload the video, other people watch the video. Okay, yeah. It's kind of like a something same. Okay, yeah. You record the artifact, other people will gonna listen the artifact too. It's kind of like that. Okay, yeah. There is only one thing that I'm kind of like a providing: privacy. I won't let people know about your name, as also you will not gonna know other people name, nothing at all. Privacy is a kind of like a very much essential that I'm providing, so that everyone should supposed to be record freely and express their thoughts and things very freely without having any constraint to know and things and that things and that. Because when you involve identity kind of like a carry so much amount of weight, and we cannot able to be express ourselves because we are holding such kind of like identity. Artifact is kind of like a letting to not you take that identity or not, like basically that identity load will kind of like a, you will not gonna carry here. You are kind of like just a random user who are kind of like a recording your thoughts and things and that. Okay, so this is kind of like assembly my app. Now obviously it's this thing, I wanted to re-verify every possible way that how do I supposed to make the app. Right now I'm building the app, okay, yeah, but I wanted to kind of like understand every possible scenario, that what kind of like a situation will gonna happen, how would I supposed to face and things and that. Okay, yeah, because it's a kind of like a social media platform, people are kind of like sharing their thoughts and things, and there are so many possible consequences will gonna happen, and that consequences might not right or might not good. So how do I supposed to solve that problem or things and that. So I need to know verification, I need to know the all the possible scenario, I need to know the understanding that key, what kind of like a problem I will gonna face, so that I will at least solve the problem since the beginning. Okay, yeah. So I went to ChatGPT. I kind of like a tell about my application, things and that. I said that he suggest me at least like 100 questions regarding about my application, about execution, consequences. Yeah. So ChatGPT kind of like suggests me hundreds of questions. This is one of those questions. Now, regarding about this question, the question says that how will onboarding creates calm behavior? It means that ki onboarding means like that people who are kind of like a recording first time, they are recording artifact. So how it will kind of like their experience. Okay, yeah. Or how do I supposed to make an app for new user to kind of like a feel a little bit of welcoming? How do I supposed to do that? Well, basically saying that ki how do I supposed to do that? Okay, so basically is this thing na ki couple of things are really essential. The people who will kind of like install my app, obviously they will gonna know regarding about what is actually my app. Okay, yeah, they already know. Like basically this thing, why do you download Instagram app, or why do you download ChatGPT app, or why do you download any kind of like app? Because of that, ki you already heard about this app somewhere, and that's why you kind of like download. It's not really that ki there is a kind of like a Play Store app and you are kind of like downloading because of the icon kind of like look cool. You will not gonna download such a thing, right? So it's kind of like that. Okay, yeah. If you probably heard about something about my application, you will gonna download. Okay, yeah. Now it is my responsibility to kind of like a feel little bit of welcome. So how do I supposed to be kind of like a let you welcome? Okay, so basically it's a social media platform. Okay, yeah. First of all, you will kind of like simply sign up by Google. Okay, okay. Let me kind of like give you another understanding. Okay, privacy means like that I am providing privacy to you. Okay, yeah. At the moment, I am not really sure how do I supposed to execute the privacy at the moment. Okay, why is that? Okay, let me kind of like tell you. I design my app in a such a way that your identity will kind of like okay, let me kind of like tell you step by step what exactly happened. Okay, so you sign up with a Google. Okay, yeah. Soon as you sign up with a Google, then what exactly happened, that key you are kind of like you have to choose a username. Okay, yeah. And there is a kind of like some username, it kind of like says okay, like a username, choose the username means like that key like a artifact is kind of like a suggest you these are kind of like a username you have to choose. Oh yeah, choose any kind of like a random username, choose, and then after that you have to set the profile picture. But your profile picture is not the profile picture that you can upload. No, there is a kind of like emoji. Okay, you have to kind of like a select the what kind of like a simply profile picture as a emoji, smiley emoji or things and that and that and that. I was actually considered that maybe kind of like somebody creating avatar would be kind of like a much more better, because in the avatar you can kind of like a create the digital avatar of yourself. Okay, yeah, this might be much more better. I will try, but at least at the beginning I will gonna try to do with emoji. When I will have a kind of like a bunch of people who are kind of like understanding regarding about that and that, then I will gonna implement that thing with the creating avatar and things and that and that. Okay, now you select the kind of like a avatar and select the kind of like a username. You are welcome to the home screen. Okay, now in the home screen you are kind of like a see my interface. Okay, there is a kind of like a bunch of user are kind of like a there is a people who are kind of like somebody said something. There is a kind of like a simply play button that you could play. Okay, then there is a kind of like a like button, dislike button, and there is a score at the kind of like a bottom left. Okay, yeah, and you are kind of like seeing those cards, multiple cards. Okay, yeah. My entire environment is a kind of like a, it's not really that calm, but it's not really I'm trying to be that much cluttered. Okay, yeah. Basically is this thing na ki, right, like let me tell you one thing na, I try to make sure my design is a kind of like as much as calmer, as much as kind of like something that ki like a feel good and things and that and that. I was actually thinking that ki probably kind of like somebody using like a white color would be much more better, glass and white color, because I want it to be like a glass is kind of like a somewhat something little bit of transparent. Okay, yeah, things like that, something like that. This kind of like a UI design. I love UI design, but right now I'm not really sure about that. Okay, yeah. How do I supposed to execute? Because I'm not really like a really good developer. I am kind of like a creating my application by vibe coding, by kind of like a Android agents. Okay, yeah. So basically, is this thing I am try to create the app to kind of like somebody it work. Okay, yeah. Regarding about how it should supposed to be look, I will try. Okay, yeah. In the future, like basically I will gonna have this kind of like a developer who has a kind of like a better experience about UI design and things and that. Then I will kind of like making sure my application kind of like look like that way and that way and that way. Okay. But right now I am building my own app, so right now I'm not really like that much like I will try to kind of like look my application as good as possible as it can, bit more calmer, bit more kind of like a feel good and things and that. Okay. Now this is the home page that you are kind of like a see the cards. In that card you can see the kind of like a people who are kind of like a so many things, like the title of the artifact, and then there is a kind of like a play button. If you play the button, you can there is a audio player actually pop up on the bottom, and you are kind of like started listening that artifact. Okay, yeah, kind of like a thing. Okay, also there is also one thing that I wanted to do. Okay, yeah, I wanted that key every artifact should supposed to be listen on headphone. Like basically it's not that you could play the artifact and artifact are kind of like started playing on speakerphone. No, it's not. Okay, yeah. I'm not really sure how do I supposed to do that, but I think that na ki it's like a artifact is a kind of like a personal thought process. You are kind of like hearing someone thoughts. Okay, yeah. Obviously is this saying that ki that thought shouldn't supposed to be you listen with the speaker or something like that. You have to be listen only and only with the headphone. Okay, yeah, if you have a headphone you could able to be listen. If you don't, this will not gonna play. Okay, it kind of like a says put on the headphone or kind of like a turn on the headphone or things like that and that, because it's very essential. Okay, I don't want that key. And why am I not kind of like a letting people, like why am I not letting this speaker thing? Because of that na ki like it's a kind of like a things that are very different, like a basically is this thing na like a perspective. Okay, sometimes na looking at the perspective is kind of like a much more different than like a okay, I don't know how to explain. Okay, so let's just say, have you watched movie in theater? Yeah, it felt really good. It felt something that ki wow. Okay, yeah, but same movie that you can watch in OTT, you might not felt that good. Why? The movie is same, right? But the problem is that na ki the experience that you get to watch movie in theater is far more bigger than watch movie in OTT platform. Okay, yeah. So that's what I'm trying to tell you is this thing. The same kind of like a things will acted very differently to different kind of people. Like just imagine that ki you are kind of like only playing someone artifact in the group of people. Obviously I don't want that, because every kind of like a people who might gonna think very differently. Okay, yeah. So it's not really good. And obviously artifact is not meant to be kind of like a listen in the loudspeaker. Definitely not. Okay, yeah. So the only way that you could able to be listen artifact by headphone, earphone, any kind of like so many things. Okay, it will not gonna play on any kind of like a speaker, nothing really at all. Okay, yeah, to kind of like maintain the privacy as much as better it possible. Okay, now another thing. Okay, how do I supposed to kind of like make sure that the onboarding people, like the first time user, they will kind of like record the artifact, like how they will kind of like welcome, how they will kind of like record the artifact. Obviously is this thing that when the first time they are kind of like playing the record button, there is a kind of like some is this thing. Okay, what is actually happened in the home screen? There is a kind of like a bottom center, there is a kind of like a button to record, red color icon. Okay, yeah, you have to click it. Okay, yeah, then basically the recorder screen actually happened. Recording does not really started. Okay, yeah, it's kind of like a record screen is actually open. Okay, and in that record screen, top screen is kind of like a somebody welcoming. Okay, not welcoming, kind of like a, it says this is your first time. It might gonna feel really awkward. Just calm and kind of like a said these things. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, the at the early like basically the first time people who are kind of like a recording artifact, there is a kind of like a some screen actually pop up. It might feel awkward to first time record the artifact. So kind of like simply start with this thing like, hello, this is my artifact episode number 1. Today's date is like a 23 April 2026. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. And then kind of like some question. The question actually pop up that how do you like what is actually happened today? Okay, yeah. Like this kind of like a question. The first question pop up. Like basically this question is actually pop up on the like a top half of the screen. Like what is actually happened today, and you are kind of like telling that key. Okay, like it happened this, it happened that. Okay, yeah. Also, is this thing? It also kind of like a showing the message. Okay, yeah. The privacy is in your hand. Okay, like basically making sure that key you will not gonna say any kind of like your name or things and that in your artifact. Oh, okay, at the spur of the moment you might gonna mention. Obviously we will kind of like try to remove that thing, but making sure you kept yourself private as much as possible. Okay, yeah. So this kind of like a screen, like this kind of like some text is actually appear when you kind of like hit the record button. Okay, yeah. Like a record button, record is not started, like a just record button from the home screen kind of like says make sure you are kind of like a private and things and that. Okay, and then kind of like a record button actually appear. Then there is a kind of like a timer, then there is a kind of like a text on the top screen, then there is a artifact number, what is actually date. You just have to say today's date is a this, and kind of like a somebody kind of like a the top left top screen kind of like a give the like a top half screen kind of like a give the text that what is actually happened, and you kind of like a mention that what is actually happened and today things and that. Okay, yeah. And making sure that like just kind of like somebody giving them as much as kind of like somebody feel really good and things and that. Okay, yeah. Obviously is this thing, these are kind of like a cluster of questions are actually available over there. Okay, yeah. So basically if you ask this, if you give the answer that okay, how do you feel really good, then kind of like a next question, you have to pop the next question. Next question is that key associate with that. Okay, yeah. What do you learn something or things like I will gonna arrange such a question regarding about first time user, what they kind of like a feel regarding about that. Okay, yeah. I will kind of like a create a cluster of question regarding about different users and things and that. Okay, yeah. So that they will kind of like a feel really good, and they will not kind of like a simply blank that key what they should supposed to be talking the artifact. Okay, there is a kind of like a question that they pop up and they have to give the answer. Okay, yeah. Kind of like a feel really good things and that, and whenever they wanted to kind of like a stop, they will kind of like a stop the recording. Yeah, so this is kind of like a simply how I do this kind of like a onboarding things. Okay, yeah. But still there are a lot of things like I am kind of like designing that stuff, but I don't know how to supposed to design. I'm not really a developer. Like right now I'm kind of like a developing app, but still is this thing na ki there are so many stuff, but I will try. Okay, I will kind of like making sure my application will be that much calmful and things and that. All right. So this is how I kind of like a cater the onboarding people, or how will onboarding create calm behavior. So this is how I kind of like a create a calm behavior for onboarding people or new user. Yeah. All right. So this is it. I have to end here. Thank you.